Hello class, today we will be learning some new words that you'll need to know for when we start reading The Ravine by Graham Salisbury. It's important for you to learn these new words and new words in general so that you'll be able to better express yourself and your thoughts and the world around you as you grow. So our plan for today is we're going to go over the words, we're going to go over the definitions, and then we're going to create sentences for these words. Then we're going to create vocabulary cards for you and a partner to review, and then we'll finish with our test. So before we get started with the lesson today, I want to see how well you might already know these words, so then we know if we don't need to practice some of them as vigorously. So here's the vocab test. There are just 6 questions, and they're the definitions of the words, and then you have to pick the correct word. Don't worry if you don't really know them right now, because that's why we're going through this lesson today. Okay, so a little background. The Ravine is about a boy who goes with his friends to a cliff, and they are jumping off the high part of the cliff into water, a body of water, and there was a boy who had recently gone missing there. So the main character is afraid to jump, and we'll learn more during our next lesson about that. Okay, so our first vocabulary word is ravine. Ravine. And the definition of ravine is a deep, narrow valley made by running water. So usually it's kind of like if you were to imagine a canyon and water at the bottom of that canyon. That would be what a ravine is. Alright, our next word is gnarly. So some people think of surfers saying gnarly. That's not exactly what we're going for. This is something that has many knots and bumpy areas on its surface. So gnarly. And then we're going to go back over these words, and then you're going to say the definition, the word and the definition with me. I just want to go through them first so that you at least know what they are. Okay, the next one is rivulets. And that is, well, rivulet, sorry, is a brook, a small brook or stream. It can also be, I believe, like a creek or a crick, whichever word you prefer to say. Our next word is decomposing. You might hear this in your science classes. You'll learn about that in biology and earth science. So that is starting to decay and fall apart. And then our next word is cascade. So this word is to fall, pour, or rush in stages. So it'll start softly and then it'll get more vigorous from there. And then our last word is precipice. So it's an overhanging or extremely steep area of rock. Precipice. Okay, so now we're going to go back over the words, and you're going to say the word and the definition with me. So this first one is ravine. A deep, narrow valley made by running water. Great, alright. So the next one, gnarly. Something that has many knots and bumpy areas on its surface. Great job. Next, rivulets. Rivulets, yes. A small brook or stream. Okay, next one. Decomposing. Starting to decay and fall apart. Awesome. Next we have cascade. Ready? Let's try that again. Cascade. Yes, there we go. To fall, pour, or rush in stages. Awesome. Alright, so then we have precipice. precipice, an overhanging or extremely steep area of rock. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to create sentences for each of our words, and I want you to come up with these sentences. Okay. So, are we ready? What is a word we can use, or a sentence, I'm sorry, what is a sentence we can use for ravine? Yes. Oh, that's great. That's a great sentence. Let's all get out a piece of paper and write these sentences down. That way you're getting practice using the word as well in context. Okay, so our sentence is going to be, what was that again? Oh, yes. We threw rocks into the ravine while standing on the cliff. So let's take a moment and write that down. Okay, awesome. So we have, we threw rocks into the ravine while standing on the cliff. Great. That is an awesome example. Okay, so what about gnarly? This one might be a little bit more difficult. It took me a bit to really understand this word too, so don't feel any pressure. So what is a sentence we can use for gnarly? Okay, what do you think? Yes, all right. That's a great sentence. Okay, so you said the gnarly roots were twisted and thick. That's a great example because as we said, gnarly, let's see where we have this. Gnarly is something that has many knots and bumpy areas on its surface. So roots, when they're coming out of the ground, can make the ground very bumpy. So we have, let's take a second and write this one down. The gnarly roots were twisted and thick. Great. So we have, we have the gnarly roots were twisted and thick. Great job. You guys are really good at this. Okay, so what's another one for decomposing? Let's go with decomposing. Yes? Ooh. I want to go with something that's not so down, you know, like sad. Let's think of something that has to do with, like, what are other things that can decompose other than a body? Yes, what do you think? Oh, I like that one. That one's good. So she said the tomato began decomposing after a day in the sun. That's a really good one, thinking about fruits and vegetables. So let's all take a moment to write that one down. The tomato began decomposing after a day in the sun. All right, so here we go. The tomato began decomposing after a day in the sun. Awesome. Okay, so rivulet. This one, as a reminder, is a small brook or stream. So it's not as big as a river. It's much, much smaller. It's like a really small, tiny body of running water. So what do we think? Yes. Okay, that's a good one. Yes, I like that a lot. So the rivulet, he said the rivulet does not provide enough water for the village. That's great. That explains how a rivulet is only a small stream or brook. So let's take a minute to write that one down. The rivulet does not provide enough water for the village. Great. Okay, so let's look at this one. The rivulet does not provide enough water for the village. Awesome. Okay, now we have cascade. Who thinks they can come up with a good sentence for cascade? Yes. Good. I really like this one. Okay. So the water cascades over the rocks. It's a very simple sentence, but it explains it very clearly. So it's cascading, it's falling, it's pouring, it's rushing over the rocks. So let's take a second to write that down. The water cascades over the rocks. Alrighty. So we have the water cascades over the rocks. Great. You guys are doing great. So the last one we have is precipice. And this one again is an overhanging or extremely steep area of rock. Okay, so who has a sentence for precipice? Someone who hasn't gone yet. You, all the way in the back there, yes. That's a really complex sentence. That's good. We should definitely take that one. All right. So she said, when he climbed up the precipice, everybody was nervous. So it's an overhanging or extremely steep area. So that would make you really nervous if somebody was climbing up to it. Okay, so let's take a minute to write that down. When he climbed up the precipice, everybody was nervous. So let's say this together. When he climbed up the precipice, everybody was nervous. Great. Those are really awesome sentences. You guys are really smart. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create vocab cards. So I want you to take the strips. I want you to write the word on one side and then the definition on the other. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold it so that only the word is shown on one side and the definition is on the other side. And then you're going to sit with a partner and they're going to either show you the word or the definition. And you have to practice memorizing the word with its definition. Okay? So take a minute to do that. Okay. So now that you all have practiced your words, and we've put them in sentences, we've practiced writing them, I feel really confident that you're going to do much better on this vocab test than when we first took it at the beginning of the lesson. So again, we're going to take the same vocab test. It has all of your words on it. It's going to start with the definition, and then you have to pick the correct word. Okay? And you guys did great today. Thank you for participating.